extraordinary circumstance mean non-traditional tool. Twice in recent history of the US economy faced severe economic stress. The first was the 2007-2009 financial crisis, and the second was the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. Though the trigger for each of these events was very different, each resulted in extreme hardship for US household and business that moved employment and inflation away from the Fed's dual mandate. I'm gonna read the footnote before. In the 1970s and 1980s, money supply growth was seen as a key factor influencing economic activity at the and the price level. As a result, the Full Employment and Balanced Growth Act of 1978, known as the Humphrey-Hawkins Act, required the Federal Reserve to set one-year target range for money supply growth and to report to Congress on the behavior of the money supply relative to those target range. However, because the historical relationship among these variables were not stable, the FOMC gradually shifted away from a focus on the monetary aggregates as a key guide for monetary policy over time. By the mid-1990s, the FOMC increasingly focused on adjusting a target for the level of short-term interest rate with the goal of influencing overall financial condition in a way that would attain the committee dual mandate. Many textbooks present the limited reserve framework where the Fed used OMO, this one is open market operation, to achieve a desired level of the money supply, to move market interest rate to the FOMC target, and ultimately steer the economy towards the committee dual mandate. Today, in an ample reserve regime, the Fed must ensure the quantity of reserve is ample, but targeting the level of reserve or money supply is not the focus for policy implementation. Okay, at the onset of each of these events, the FOMC lowered the target range for the federal funds rate to 0 to 25 basis points. It also used forward guidance about the likely future setting of the policy rate and announced balance sheet program where it purchased sizable quantities of government securities. To ensure this stance of policy was transmitted through the economy, the Fed leaned on many tools. Some standard tools used in different ways on other non-traditional tools that are reserved for unusual and exigent circumstances and need the approval of the Secretary of the Treasury. These tools tend to be used to support the smooth functioning of financial market, help foster accommodative financial condition, or, more directly, support the flow of credit to household, business, and communities. As these tools were used, reserve in the banking system increased. For example, during both crises, the Fed conducted a large-scale asset purchases to either deliberately push down longer-term interest rate, the motive during 2007-2009 financial crisis and subsequent recession, or aid market functioning and help foster accommodative financial condition, the motive during the COVID-19 pandemic. As a traditional open market operation, when the Fed purchases securities, it pays for the securities by adding reserve to the banking sector. The Fed also made adjustments to existing lending facilities and introduced new emergency lending facilities to help provide short-term liquidity to banks and other financial institutions. For example, the Fed expanded its currency swap program, where it loaned dollar to foreign central bank to alleviate dollar funding stress abroad. It also introduced the primary dealer credit facility during both stress events, which provided overnight loans to primary dealer and helped foster improved conditions in financial market. As the counterparty used the Fed's tool, the lending boost reserve in the banking system. In the 2007-2009 financial crisis, the subsequent recession, the Fed measure resulted in reserve balance rising from their pre-crisis $20 billion level to about $2.7 trillion at their peak in October 2014. It was during this time that the Fed had to abandon the limited reserve regime. In 2020, in response to the COVID shock, reserve balance rose from $1.6 trillion in early March to $3.3 trillion in mid-May. This latter pace of security purchase has never been seen before, and the level of reserve that resulted from it was about a 35% share of GDP, a share that had not been recorded since World War II. In terms of our supply-demand diagram, figure 2, when faced with this shock, the Fed action shifted the supply curve far to the right. Some have termed the level of reserve at these times as abundant or superabundant. Since the supply curve remains on the flat portion of the demand curve, the ample reserve regime remains in place. The administered rates do their job to keep short-term interest rate near zero. Then the Fed's other tools, which are introduced to help stabilize market and more directly help credit flow through the economy, are able to quickly be implemented. Ultimately, when the economy improves and no longer needs support through these additional measures, the Fed puts the non-traditional tools back on the shelf and takes action to slowly reduce the supply of reserve to a more efficient and effective level. Between late 2014 and early 2020, for example, as the economy grew, the Fed began to lower the level of reserve balance from their October 2014 peak in an action they termed normalizing the balance sheet. This same slow lowering of reserve balance will most likely occur after the economy recovers from the COVID-19 shock. But in both cases, the level of reserve will be such that the Fed continues to implement policy with an ample level of reserve. That is, one where small movement in the level of reserve do not affect the federal funds rate.